What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the first edition of the Smart Mark podcast here on YouTube.com. And we're going to be discussing a lot of things today, all WWE related. We're going to go over the WrestleMania hype. We're going to talk about Raw this previous Monday. Talk about Ambrose's role, Lesnar's role, Roman Reigns' failed booking at this point we're going to discuss, and a lot of other things, some Sami Zayn news, and news on Bray Wyatt. Apparently he has an injury, so we're going to be discussing all that today. I'd like to thank you for joining me. Before we get started, just want to throw a couple things out there. If you want to follow the channel, the best way to do that is on social media. You can like the page on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. Both of those links are Smart Mark Podcast. We've rebranded the entire channel to reflect that. So I'm going to have some links down below to those respective social media networks. Or if you want, if you're on Facebook already, just search Smart Mark Podcast. It'll take you right to the channel as well as on Twitter. So first I want to talk about Raw just a little bit. I know we did the breakdown earlier this week, but I do want to just go over a few things from the show. Triple H doing really great work now. You know, not his best run of his career, but definitely showing that he can still cut a good promo, can still deliver a really good match. His match with Dolph Ziggler was really, really good, as well as his match with Dean Ambrose at Roadblock this past week. Definitely showing he still got the chops, and trying to, I guess, send a message to the rest of the locker room to step their game up. Maybe that's what the promo that he cut on the audience was intended for, to point to the locker room and say, hey, you know, you're going to have to earn this. You're going to have to step your game up, and you're going to have to show us that you are worth pushing. You are worth putting in that main event scene. Obviously, we know that Roman Reigns is not working out, and we are definitely looking for alternatives. I believe that they are. So giving that message to the backstage wrestlers, you know, telling them to step their game up, I believe is what the intention was there. Also, Dean Ambrose doing really great work on Monday, showing that he can stand tall with a person the likes of Brock Lesnar. Having that big draw power that Lesnar does. Ambrose is equaling that to a certain extent now. Not equaling it, but coming closer to it. He's over, man. He is one of the most over superstars in that locker room, and is doing great work, especially with his promo backstage with Mick Foley this past Monday. Getting a really good nostalgia pop with the baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire. You know, everybody liked that. And cutting a good promo on Smackdown as well against Lesnar. You know, it wasn't anything big. If you watch the show, it was just him basically coming down and beating up the social outcasts, and, you know, proclaiming, hey, he said, Brock, if you have the baseballs to stand up to me, I'll see you at that Raw, or something to that extent. So it was a good promo by Ambrose on SmackDown, and a really good week for him. Roman Reigns, however, doing good work. The beatdown to Triple H on Monday was exciting. It was what we've been waiting to see from him for a long time. It just fell flat. And the reason for that is his previous stints in the company, talking about the beanstalk and the tater tots and all the corny promos that he's cut before. It's destroyed his credibility to this point to where he cannot survive that anymore. He can't resurgence himself, and it's just not working. Who knows if they have a plan for WrestleMania to negate all these boos they're going to get, because they are going to get them. It's not going to be a pretty sight at WrestleMania if they continue down this path. As well as we had Shane and Undertaker face off. It was a decent promo. It wasn't the most spectacular thing, because it was so short-worded, and there wasn't much to it, especially from Undertaker, which has been his role as of late. He hasn't really explained, why am I working for Vince McMahon? Why am I being a puppet for this guy? It's the truth. Shane spoke pretty clear, and there was a lot of truth in that Undertaker is playing a bitch to Vince McMahon. And I don't know what course they're going to take to rectify this storyline, but if I had to guess, they're not going to address this at all. They're just going to keep making shocking moment after shocking moment to just garner interest for the match, because everyone's excited for the match. You know, everybody knows that Shane is going to probably deliver in that match, as well as Undertaker. They don't think they necessarily need to focus on the storyline as much, but it is imperative because there's such a gaping hole in this story. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Now, going over to the hype for WrestleMania, is this one of the worst built storyline driven WrestleMania cards ever? It possibly could be. Looking at it, from Shane to Taker, to Roman to Triple H, Ambrose to Lesnar, it's a very weak card as far as storylines go. As far as star power and match interest, it is a high level pay-per-view, but the storylines just aren't there to back up the interest. There is no emotional garnishment in it. It's, it's a star fest, and that that's what WrestleMania is. Of course, it's to showcase the stars. It's to showcase. It's the showcase of the immortals, But it's just not being built the right way. There's no emotional involvement in any of these stories. You got Ambrose and Lesnar. What emotional involvement is there in that? Where did this storyline come from? Ambrose did something to Lesnar. Lesnar didn't like it. Blah, 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 blah. Lesnar assaults him before Raw, which is really where the heat comes from. The whole heat of this storyline comes from that Facebook video of Lesnar beating up Ambrose outside and throwing him on a car and stuff. But it's not, you have more heat with Roman and Triple H, even though it has not much heat, with Triple H putting Roman in the hospital. That is a storyline you can emotionally involve yourself in. He put this guy out of work. He injured him to the point where he had to be hospitalized. Ambrose, not so much. He came back at the end of that Raw, crawling and stuff from the ambulance, which was a nice spot, but there's just not a lot to it. It's kind of the same storyline that you have with Roman and Triple H, but less heat. Speaking of that match, and the heat being all backwards, you have people cheering Triple H after this horrible promo he cuts on everyone. We're all garbage apparently, and the rich are the rich and powerful are the people who should be respected, and all the others can be thrown away. That was basically his promo. And we're still cheering for this guy. We're still booing Roman Reigns, the guy who's standing up for the people against the evil authority, the evil tyrant. And it's not working because Roman, he's so corny. He's showed that he can't cut a good promo. He showed that he's not that great in the ring. He's serviceable, but he's no AJ Styles. He's no Kevin Owens. A long list of people he's not. He's definitely a mid-card talent if you want to get truthful about it as far as ability goes. But, Vince McMahon seeing this, he wanting this look. He wants to replace John Cena. He wants the next John Cena, and this is not going to be it. It may be in the long run, but you're going to have to turn him because he's being booed. The guy is being booed right now. If you turn him heel, him getting booed is the proper response to give a heel. So why? It just makes sense to do that. He's already getting the response a heel would get. It's not like if you turn Roman Reigns, everybody's going to cheer him all of a sudden. There'll be a few people that will, because they'll be so happy that he's not a babyface anymore. They'll just cheer the fact that they turned him. But you're going to have the majority of the audience still booing Roman Reigns, which is the response you want for Roman Reigns. If you're not getting the response you want as a babyface, then go the other way. you're going to get that proper response. You're not going to look like a fool at WrestleMania 32 if you're Vince McMahon. So is it just me, or is everyone else more excited for the Raw after WrestleMania more than they are WrestleMania? Because every week I'm watching this, I'm thinking of, I can't wait till this is all over and we can hit the reset button on the Raw after WrestleMania and see what they have planned. You know, you have people like Finn Balor probably coming up, and the Balor Club, you know, with Machine Gun Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows. You got those guys possibly coming up and having a faction run roughshod over Raw for a while. And that's an exciting storyline to build. You have the true coming of AJ Styles. You know, this run he's been getting since Royal Rumble hasn't been. It's been a safe one. You know, they haven't given him anything real to sink his teeth into. And I believe they'll start doing that after WrestleMania. So there's a lot of things to be excited for, as well as the possibility of Vince McMahon being gone, which I'm sure we all can agree is best for business at this point. So there's a lot of things to look forward to, but WrestleMania, honestly, not so much. You know, we're all going to watch it because every year we assume, even though the build is not good, that they're going to pull something out to make it worth watching. And they probably will. But if you're looking at the storylines where they are, where certain superstars are positioned, you're looking at the Raw after WrestleMania and saying, hey, you know, we're going to get a break from this Roman Reigns crap. You know, he's probably going to be the champion, but we're going to have a lot of good people vying for that championship instead of having to watch this come to power storyline with Roman Reigns that we're all sick of. That's going to be done, and I think we can all take a long breath after that's done with, and we can reset and start seeing what WWE has planned for the future. I think that's what everyone's looking forward to more than anything. Now, I want to talk about Sami Zayn a little bit. You know, we're all, most of the smart marks, of course, are pumped that Sami Zayn's up on the main roster. However, there has been a slight disconnect with the audience for him. He's not getting the pops that he was getting in NXT, obviously, and I think that can be expected because you have a lot of casual audiences that have only seen him one or two times. You know, they've seen him fight John Cena and get injured. That's pretty much all they've seen. But I think the more they see him wrestle, they'll start to get into him. Just because he's very talented. You know, he's one of the most talented wrestlers on the roster. He can put on a match like no other, just about. You know, him and AJ Styles are probably the peak. Like, you have AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. Those are probably your top three technical wrestlers in the company right now, if you're not counting a Triple H, you know, a veteran like that. As far as putting a match together and making it exciting, those three are the pinnacle. And it's just going to take a while, I think, for the casual audience to understand that about Sami Zayn, just as it is about AJ. You know, most of the overwhelming response that I think AJ gets is from us. It's from the smart crowd. It's not from the casual crowd. You know, they dig his music. They dig, you know, a lot of things about him. They dig his high-flying moves and stuff, but they don't understand yet how good he is. You know, it took a while for Kevin Owens to get over like that. He came in, you know, as a heel, immediately got booed, but then after time, you started seeing people were starting to cheer Kevin Owens, you know, and of course now he's getting booed more, but he has slacked down on his performance, on purposefully, you know, to not garner that overwhelming babyface response. That's what a pro does, like Kevin Owens. He starts seeing that I'm doing everything I can. I'm being as dastardly as I can, but I'm still being cheered. So what do? You change your entire ring style, just like Kevin Owens did. And now he's working more heel. He's not working as exciting. He's still pulling off really good moves and showing his technicality, but he's not doing, you know, suicide dives. He rarely does the big spot on the top rope, the fisherman suplex off the top rope, I guess you could call it, which is a really big pop move that a lot of people love to see. So he's cut back on a lot of that stuff. And I think, like I said, after time, I think the casual audience will at least start to connect with Sami Zayn after he gets to show his chops. Now, as for a person like Tyler Breeze, I honestly cannot explain why he is where he is. Because where is Tyler Breeze? Is he hanging out backstage? Because I don't see him on the show. He's on Superstars and Main Event, if I had to guess. Not that I watch those shows, but if I had to guess, that's where he is, and that's sad. The guy is, not as talented as we'll not say as talented as Owens, AJ, or Sammy, but the guy is definitely getting there. He is on the path towards that. He's a very, very good technical wrestler. And, he does have a gimmick, which is, I knew when he came to the main roster that it was going to be tough to get him over because it's a pretentious, annoying thing to see as a wrestling fan. You're not going to like his entrance, it's because it's just not conducive to your audience, the pretty boy model type gimmick, it doesn't go over very well. You see that with John Morrison when he was here at WWE. You didn't see him get over that well. He had a smattering of fans, but he didn't have the masses. And I think that's where Tyler Breeze is at right now. He's not as over as John Morrison was in his prime with the company, but if they just gave him a little time on TV, I think he would get there. He's definitely got the skill. He's got the promo ability. Anytime he's on the mic, I pay attention, and he does a really good job. So I don't know why they're not pushing a Tyler Breeze type character. There's not a character like that on the roster right now, and just like a Fandango, but Fandango is not near as talented as a Tyler Breeze. You can see that by their work style. Also, I wanted to talk about Bray Wyatt a little bit and the Wyatt family in general. They are, as far as I know, they don't have a WrestleMania match right now, and that is very concerning for the Wyatt family. They've been given a push in the past, and then they've been dropped. They've been given a push and dropped, given a push and dropped, and they can't make any headway. They can't gain any placement in the card. And move up in the card because of the booking. And it's a shame because they are all very talented, especially Bray. Now, the reason that Bray isn't in a match at WrestleMania is he has a pretty severe back problem. Dave Meltzer reported this earlier this week that Bray has a pretty severe back issue, and no one knows yet if that's going to require surgery, how long he's going to be out. It's all unknown at this point. But Bray is he's having an injury problem, so that would make sense why he wasn't technically in the match at Roadblock. He was, but he didn't see any action. So that would explain that. That would also explain why he's not being pushed for a big WrestleMania match, because they may not know if he can do it. They may not know if he will even be able to compete come WrestleMania. So he's hurt, and it's not good for the family. It just sucks. I love the Wyatt family. I think they have a lot of potential. Not every one of them is a good wrestler, of course. Luke Harper stands out in that group as being a really good technical wrestler. He can cut a good promo. He could stand on his own, honestly. But I do like him being in the Wyatt family. Now you have Eric Rowan and Braun Strowman, not the best. I would, obviously Eric Rowan with a little bit more experience than a Braun Strowman, but Braun Strowman does have some strong points. He has he at least has an aura about him. He at least has I'm this big guy. You better watch out for me. He has that going for him. But that's about where it ends. When he gets in the ring, he can throw you around a little bit, but that's about all he's going to be able to do. He's not that impressive, and definitely could not stand on his own, nor Eric Rowan. So as a cohesive unit, the Wyatt family is very good and very entertaining to watch when they are given a spot. It's just here lately they haven't been given that. And with Bray being injured, I don't see them getting anything at WrestleMania. They will all probably be in the Battle Royal, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Bray Wyatt will probably be on the sidelines. If he does have that big of an injury, he may be at ringside and, do a little spot here and there. Nothing of him getting hurt, but, pulling somebody's feet or by the side of the ring, something like that. Just to help out the Wyatt family and try to get one of them to win. Wouldn't be surprised to see Braun Strowman win it, honestly, which is kind of odd to see, and it's not going to be overwhelming for anyone, but at least you're doing something with them, given that Bray is hurt. Now, shifting focus over to Kevin Owens, looking like he's going to get a multi-man match at WrestleMania. Not sure who those participants are going to be outside of Sami Zayn and possibly The Miz. I would expect The Miz to be in there, mostly because of Neville's injury this past Monday, which is a real shame. I think he fractured his ankle officially, just the bone. He hasn't torn any ligaments or anything like that, but that is going to put him out for WrestleMania completely. I think it was 3 months. His timetable to come back to the ring was 3 months from now. So, we're looking at June, mid-June before his return. So he's definitely going to miss WrestleMania. Not necessarily a bad thing, though, if you're Neville, because of his stagnation as of late. He's done good work. His ring work is excellent. Neville has great ring work. I personally am not a fan of his superhero gimmicky thing that he's doing, which I know is not his choice. But to me, it undercuts his talent. He's so much better. He can stand on his own just as he did in NXT as Adrian Neville. I'm going to be the world champion because I'm Adrian Neville, and I can out-wrestle just about anybody on this roster. And instead of pushing him like that, they're giving him a cape and wristbands and, John Cena. Well, I don't even know how to say that. They're giving him the John Cena treatment, and it's not good. I know it's good for the kids and stuff, but he is so much better than that, and that's why he's stagnating, because they're giving him this gimmick role. Don't gimmick him up. Let him be himself. Let him go out there and put on a clinic like a Sami Zayn can, like a Kevin Owens can, like a AJ Styles can. Let him be that guy, because he can be. And you talk about 4 great technical wrestlers. That's a great place to start rebuilding your roster after WrestleMania. I know you're going to have this whole thing with Roman Reigns, but there are 4 big-time contenders for that IC title, at least for right now. That's their role. And you let them go out there and destroy the house, tear the house down, steal the show for the card that they're placed on, because they can do that for you. Now, speaking of Raw, this was the 3rd week in a row that the ratings have been down. Not a good sign going into WrestleMania season. It's not awful. I do have the numbers here, but it could definitely be better. This past week they had 3.46 million viewers overall. That is down again from last week's 3.55. So about 100,000 less people watched this week. And honestly, it was a little weird because the numbers fluctuated again this week as they have the past couple. At 8, you had 3.47. At 9, you had 3.39. And at 10, you had 3.51. So at 10 p.m., you had your highest number of viewers of the show, which I think are mostly casual fans tuning in to see Shane and Undertaker. They plugged that Undertaker was going to come back at the end of Raw all show long. So, I'm sure people heard about that on social media and whatnot. And, I want to see the Undertaker and Shane. That's all people care about. If you're not a hardcore wrestling fan right now, that's about the only thing that you would care about. So it makes sense that the numbers are fluctuating towards the end of the show. It's just odd because it's not it's not typical for Raw. You know, they usually drop off and drop off and drop off. But, you know, this week being this case where they had more viewers in the 10 o'clock hour just being a little odd. But, you know, given that storyline with Shane and Undertaker, definitely understandable. But the bigger story here is Raw ratings going down in general. It's like 100,000 people tune out each week for wrestling. It's like you have a group of 100,000 people that say, "Hey, I can't do this. I don't care about WrestleMania. I'm done." That's not good, because each week that's going to add up, and you're going to drop down below 3. You're going to, and I know it's not, you know, if you're talking about the math of it, it's not going to happen before WrestleMania if it keeps dropping 100,000 each week, because we only have 2 more Raws. But it's not a good sign for the company in general to have 100,000 people tuning out each week. 100,000 more each week, more people tuning out. Not a good sign, and it's you know it's going to go back up. You do know that it will eventually, but it's just not a good sign because of the time that we're in. We're going into WrestleMania. This is not good. Speaking of WrestleMania, I do have a status update on Steve Austin's role, Rock's role, and Shawn Michaels' role at the show. During the mailbag segment on Wrestling Observer Radio this week, Meltzer was asked about the status of The Rock, Steve Austin, and Shawn Michaels for this year's WrestleMania 32 event. Meltzer noted that the 2 ideas were presented to Michaels, with one being the referee gig for the Triple H match against Roman Reigns for the title. Meltzer would add that Austin's role was locked in weeks ago. And in regards to The Rock, WWE is letting him call his own shots, and they are waiting on him to get back to them. So that's very eye-opening looking at WrestleMania. You have Shawn Michaels possibly being a special guest referee for the title match. You have Steve Austin already having his role locked in for quite some time. So he may just the way it's looking, it doesn't look like Steve Austin is going to have a huge role unless it was booked 2 weeks ago or something like that. You know, if it pertains to the Shane McMahon and Undertaker match, that would make sense. Honestly, out of all the roles I could see Stone Cold having, that would be the one that makes the most sense to interfere and help Shane overcome the Undertaker and stick it to Vince one last time. That's what I think is going to happen. You also have The Rock, who nobody knows, not even them, know what he's doing yet, because he hasn't decided. It's like The Rock is the only guy in the company who has the star power to say, "I don't know what I'm going to do. Just I'm going to show up and do something. Don't worry about it." So that's what he's doing. And you know, it's going to be interesting to see at WrestleMania what happens. Also, another star who's going to be coming back from injury, the injury bug going around all over WWE, as we all know. WWE announced that Cesaro will be on their WrestleMania Revenge Tour in Europe next month. They announced on Twitter that Cesaro will return to action at the April 15th live event in Amsterdam, Netherlands, at the Ziggo Dome, and will likely wrestle at the other events on the tour as well. Cesaro is saying publicly that he won't be ready to get back in the ring in time for WrestleMania April 3rd. So he's just going to miss WrestleMania. That sucks for him. You know, everybody really likes Cesaro, especially if you're smart, Mark. You know the talent that he has and what he brings to the table. And it's just a shame that he's going to miss WrestleMania by, a week and a half. And that just sucks for him. But we're going to get Cesaro back in the ring very shortly. That's good to hear, because I know we all miss Cesaro in the ring. And as for one last story this week, just a pretty funny story about Roman Reigns and a tweet that he responded to. A Ryan Leaf on Twitter sent him a tweet. I think it was the 7th, so it was yesterday. Yesterday at about 2:00 p.m. He tweeted Roman Reigns, quote, "Do you hear how everyone boos you if you win the WWE Championship? I'll break all of my fingers. You're a terrible wrestler," at WWE Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns responded to him, quote, "Looks like your sex life is going to be a struggle. #fool." And, you know, so Roman basically saying, you know, he's going to win the championship, and little Ryan Leaf here is going to break off all his fingers, and he's not going to be able to masturbate anymore. That was the connotation, I guess. Not a bad tweet from Roman Reigns. I thought it was pretty funny, but it's just it shows his character. He's that douchebag that nobody likes in high school. That's Roman Reigns. Like his true, not his character, but this is Roman Reigns. He's the douchebag in high school that nobody likes. That's him. And I've said in the past, take the reins off of Roman, and let him be him. But if this is the Roman Reigns, the true Roman Reigns, and as we've heard before with his interviews with Sam Roberts on his podcast, just saying stuff that you shouldn't be saying if you're in his spot. He's shown that he's kind of a douchebag, and nobody really likes him. So maybe WWE feel like they have to script him as heavily as they do because they don't trust him to go out there and say stuff like that, But anyway, just a small little comment on his tweet. Nothing really big, but again, it just shows the character of the guy. And honestly, I don't see him being let loose on his own because of stuff like this. He said on Sam Roberts' podcast, he doesn't really care about people booing him. He's just in it for the money, stuff like that. That's not stuff you want to hear from a guy that you're trying to rally behind, to overcome the authority. He needs to have some passion for the business, as we all do. We all take this so seriously. It's such a big part of our lives, and he just doesn't even care. So, we don't care about him. That's essentially what you're going to get in return if you're Roman Reigns. But that's all I got for this week. Just a few stories and running down the WrestleMania hype and Raw this past week. Before I go, just want to talk about the Smackdown match that I saw at the tail end of Smackdown this week. It was awesome. AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, one-on-one with Mauro Ranallo calling the action. That's what I want to see as a wrestling fan. Didn't watch all of SmackDown. But if you missed it, just like I usually do, I don't watch SmackDown. If you don't watch it, this is what you're missing. Stuff like that. Because it was awesome. It wasn't a pay-per-view match, obviously, because it's a SmackDown match. They're not going to go all out. But to see KO and AJ in the ring at the same time, one-on-one, it was a schmoz ending. You got Chris Jericho coming out and distracting AJ for Kevin Owens to pick up the win with the pop-up powerbomb. But before the schmoz ending, this match was epic for the short amount of time that they got to go. It wasn't that short. I would guess it was probably 7 to 10 minutes that they really got to go at it. And, that's just a glimpse into the future of what we're going to see. Eventually, we are going to see Kevin Owens and AJ in a one-on-one at a pay-per-view, and it is going to be one of the best matches we've ever seen in the company. So look forward to that. If you didn't watch SmackDown, go online, look up clips, because it was definitely worth checking out. Anyway, that's the end of the show this week. I want to thank you for joining me on the first edition of the Smart Mark podcast. We're doing some rebranding here at the channel. Really excited to see what the future holds for us. If you like the show, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more WWE coverage in your subscription box. We do Raw reviews every week. We're going to be covering WrestleMania, obviously. We're going to do a review of that. And the Smart Mark podcast, which is going to be dropping every week as well, usually on Fridays. I know this came up a little bit late just because I had to do some artwork and stuff like that to rebrand the channel. But we're also going to be getting a two-man podcast team coming to the channel, probably alternate a couple of guys off and on, just to have someone to bounce stuff off of and get some other opinions, discussion going on the channel. If you want to discuss these things yourself, please write your comments down below and let me know what you thought of this show and what's going on in WWE right now. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all that. And subscribe to our social media. You can go on Facebook to the Smart Mark podcast page and like that, and go to Twitter and add me on Twitter at Smart Mark Podcast, and you will know exactly when I drop these videos each week. 2 videos in your subscription box for absolutely nothing, and I thank you for all your support. I've been your host this week, Chris Wooten. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you guys next time right here on the Smart Mark Podcast.